Is it time to go, Bhante?
Yeah, we can start.
Okay. Well, it's 10 a.m. on East Coast and 7 a.m. here in Seattle. Welcome to the opening session of our Brahma Vihara retreat. We're so happy to have you all here with us today. We are recording, so if you miss anything, you will be able to catch it later on YouTube. There are a few housekeeping issues I wanted to mention. You are muted on entry because this is a large gathering. Questions, please offer your questions by raising your hand. The hand function is in the reactions menu on some of your computers, in the participants list on others, or sometimes it's in the 3 dots at the extreme lower right hand of your computer. So teachers will see those hands raised and then we'll address the questions in order. Also, please unmute yourself if your teacher calls upon you to talk, and please keep your questions short and to the point. The session will last an hour and 20 minutes, and then we will have a break. We will announce the intervals and schedules as we go along so you don't miss anything. Now, our founder and chair, the Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi.
Okay, good morning, everybody. And thank you all for joining us for this. This will be actually the first online retreat that the Buddhist Global Relief is ever hosting. And I will be co-teaching this retreat with Ayya Dhammadipa. She is a bhikkhuni from Aloka Buddhist Vihara in Northern California, and with Venerable Jin Chuan, who is a monk in the Berkeley Buddhist Monastery, also in California. And I am here in the East Coast, north of New York City, in Upper New York State. Okay, so this retreat will be, the topic of this retreat will be on the 4 brahmaviharas. And so I want to begin first by raising the question, what are the brahmaviharas? The brahmaviharas form a set of 4 meditation subjects that primarily involve the cultivation of the heart, the development of beautiful emotions, of wholesome, elevated, ennobling emotions. So the 4 brahmaviharas are, in English, we translate as loving kindness, compassion, altruistic joy, and equanimity. In Pali, Metta, Karuna, Mudita, and Upekkha. The word brahmavihara is a compound of 2 words, Brahma and Vihara. And the word Brahma originally refers to a kind of being in the Buddhist cosmology. The Brahmas are the divine beings, the beings who inhabit the Brahma world, an exalted heavenly realm, above even the heavens of the sense sphere realm. And so the brahmaviharas are taken to be the dwelling places of these divine beings, the Brahmas. The word vihara means a dwelling place. Like in modern usage, vihara refers to a Buddhist monastery, but the original sense is any place where one dwells is a vihara. So the brahmaviharas are the dwellings of the divine beings, the Brahmas. And also they can be taken to be the qualities of these divine beings. And these divine beings have been reborn into the Brahma world by developing the brahmaviharas when they were human beings. So the 4 brahmaviharas are the qualities that lead to rebirth into the Brahma world. But the word Brahma can also be taken in a somewhat different sense. They could be taken to refer to the qualities that make us divine, that make our hearts, our emotions, similar to that of the divine Brahmas. So even if we don't develop these brahmaviharas to this extremely high level, the level that leads to rebirth in the Brahma world, we could still see them as the qualities that make us decent human beings, worthy human beings, the qualities that enable us to realize our full ethical potential as human beings. It should be said that while the brahmaviharas are an integral part of the Buddhist path, in themselves, they are not sufficient to bring enlightenment and liberation. We could say that they are supporting conditions for enlightenment and liberation. But to bring the realization of the goal, the brahmaviharas have to be supplemented and completed by panya, by wisdom, by direct realization of the true nature of things. But still, we can see the brahmaviharas to be liberating in the sense that they free us, even temporarily, from the dark qualities that overrun the heart, that stain the heart, the mental defilements. And when the brahmaviharas are developed intensely to a high level, they can bring deep samadhi, unification of mind, and can even culminate in the jhanas, the meditative absorptions. And the brahmaviharas can also be used as, we can call this the platform or basis for developing wisdom, for developing insight into the true nature of things. In my personal view, of all the teachings of the Buddha, I'd say that the brahmaviharas have an extremely critical role for us today, because when we look out upon the world, our society, our communities, even what goes on in this country, the United States, almost every week, these mass shootings, not to speak about international conflicts and violence, we could see that these are the qualities that we as humans have to develop in order to establish more wholesome, more uplifting interpersonal relationships. These are the antidotes to the tendencies that bring social conflict, violence, destruction, even war. And so the brahmaviharas, we could say, make one of the most valuable contributions that Buddhism can make to our modern civilization. Like all religions and all higher ethical systems say that the primary commandment, the primary ethical obligation is to love our neighbor or to love all humanity. But the problem is they don't provide specific instructions. How can we transform ourselves to love our neighbors and all humanity? But this is exactly what the Buddha's teaching provides. It's a rather nuts and bolts, sometimes it seems almost mechanical system of cultivation. But when we apply these methods, they gradually, over time, transform our hearts, our minds, so that if we persist with the methods, in time we will find our hearts suffused with this beautiful, universal, all-embracing love, to the extent that it becomes the natural, spontaneous, almost instinctive inclination of the heart. So this is one of the great strengths and the most precious contributions of Buddhism to contemporary life. The 4 brahmaviharas are taught because each one has its own specific nature. So the 4 work together in kind of harmony, but each works in its own particular way. And each of the brahmaviharas is the antidote, the remedy to a particular corruption of the heart. So these corruptions, these are the defilements. And when these defilements slip into the mind, then they generate the destructive emotions, the harmful emotions that cause turmoil within ourselves, bring misery to ourselves, and then they also dictate the terms of action to our will, so that we act in ways that bring harm and suffering to others and that damage our interpersonal and social relationships. So we can say that developing the 4 brahmaviharas is a means to find inner peace and happiness for ourselves, but also a way to transform our lives, our actions, so that we can become a source of benefit to others and a source of blessings to others, to our family, community, society, even to the world. Okay, I want to just briefly note the ways in which the 4 brahmaviharas are antidotes or remedies for the corruptions of the heart. So first we have loving kindness, and that is the antidote to such emotions as ill will, resentment, anger, and at its peak, hatred. Then compassion. This is the antidote it's said to be the antidote to cruelty, the tendency to violence, to harmfulness, to spite. But I would also add, this is my own opinion, that compassion is also the antidote to indifference, to that kind of state of mind where we look at the suffering of others and we think, this doesn't concern me, so why should I get involved? The third Brahmavihara is in Pali is called mudita, which I translate as altruistic joy. And this is the antidote to envy, to the sense of rivalry or competitiveness, that I have to be better than others. And it's the antidote also to dejection and resentment over the success of others. So altruistic joy enables us to rejoice in the good qualities and success of others. Then the 4th Brahmavihara is upekkha, which can be translated on the one hand as equanimity, or in another way as impartiality. So this we could say is the remedy, the antidote to bias and favoritism, by which we like certain people, dislike others, confer favors on some people, disregard others. And it's also, as equanimity, the antidote to elation and dejection, attraction and repulsion, and the emotional turmoil that comes from favoritism and from getting caught in the cycle of elation and dejection. Yeah, the 4 Brahmaviharas are also known in the Buddhist textual tradition as the 4 immeasurables, or sometimes the immeasurable states of mind. This is because ideally they are to be extended to all sentient beings, not only to human beings, but to all beings with consciousness, all beings that feel. But before we can develop the brahmaviharas to that immeasurable extent, we have to start with simple, practical steps. And this requires a lot of work, a lot of effort. The qualities might seem very beautiful, uplifting, and inspiring, but when we set down to work on them, we often run across obstacles, barriers, resistance, or just plain dryness of the mind. But what the Buddhist texts lay down is a gradual, methodical process of development. And when we follow the methods, when we follow the instructions, we can arouse these qualities, generate them in the mind, and then expand them until they become universal, embracing all beings. And so sometimes I distinguish different stages in developing the Brahmaviharas. So I call the first stage, which we're going to be working on this morning, the stage of generation, of generating the Brahmaviharas. That is, arousing them, bringing them into the heart, sort of nurturing those seeds of the beautiful qualities until they start to sprout. Then the second stage is increasing and strengthening them, making them become more and more habitual, more and more natural, stronger and more vigorous. And then the third stage is the stage of expansion or radiation, where we start spreading them in wider and wider circles until they become truly universal in scope. Okay, so this is now sort of a general overview of the Brahmaviharas. And now we're going to proceed through this retreat. We're going to proceed in developing them in sequence. So today we will be devoting actually all the day, to the development of Metta, loving kindness. Then tomorrow, Sunday, we'll be devoting pretty much the whole day to the development of Karuna, compassion. Then on Monday, we'll spend the morning developing Mudita, altruistic joy. In the afternoon, we'll have some sessions on Upekkha, equanimity or impartiality. And then the last session, we'll all be teaching together on the interconnections, interdependence, we could say the flowing together of the four Brahmaviharas. Okay, so now I want to give some basic explanation and instructions on the first Brahmavihara, which is, in Pali, we use the word metta. Is this big enough? Can people see? Okay, anyway, what I wrote, I don't know how to change it.
It's big enough for me, Ante.
Okay, yeah, I don't know how to change the size on this. Anyway, just what I wrote is the word metta, and explain that the word is derived from another word, mita, which means friend. And so literally, metta would be friendliness. But I don't like friendliness because friendliness can be a very ordinary quality. You know, somebody is kind of sociable, affable, chummy kind of guy, he has a lot of friends. Let's go out for a drink. Let's go to a ball game. That's a kind of worldly friendliness, but that's not metta. So the way I explain metta, I understand it, I render it by the word loving kindness. I follow other translators in using this word. And I think that these two words work together to capture the essential quality of metta. So the word loving suggests that this is I call it a deep, heartfelt concern for the good of others. And kindness expresses the way that quality of metta is manifested in one's actions, one's speech, and one's thoughts. Some translators use benevolence for metta, but that seems a bit too heavy, and maybe the Latinate character a bit too heavy. Some suggest goodwill, which seems to me a bit too cool and almost sort of perfunctory, without capturing the emotional overtones of metta. So loving kindness, to my views, is the most adequate way of rendering this term, bringing together the different resonances of this term. And the way we can maybe define metta is that it's a deep, heartfelt concern for the true welfare and happiness of all beings, all sentient beings, including oneself and others. And when I say that it's the concern for the welfare and happiness of beings, both of those words should be brought in. Welfare or good, the good of others, and the happiness. We don't simply want to wish others to be happy, because people can be happy in unwholesome ways. So we want them to be happy, but in ways that conduce to their true well-being. So you can say it's the wish for others to engage in activities that promote their well-being and happiness. Yeah, first, I want to explain some of the benefits of developing loving kindness, the reasons why the Buddha emphasizes the development of loving kindness as one of the basic factors or systems of meditation to be practiced. So I'm going to deal with this in more detail this evening, but just in a general way, I want to deal with this question from my own point of view rather than from the text. So the first and most basic reason, I would say, is a somewhat selfish one. That, as I said, loving kindness is the most effective remedy for anger, hatred, and ill will. And hatred is the most destructive force in the entire world, bringing great harm and misery to humanity. And so when you develop loving kindness, it helps to overcome ill will, anger, and hatred, and that brings greater peace and happiness to oneself. Hatred and anger also ruins our friendships and our family relationships. And so when we develop loving kindness, then it not only brings us inner peace and happiness, but it also sort of spills over to other people and changes our relationships with others so that other people become attracted to us, and it brings us many friends. I know when I was before I encountered Buddhism and started practicing metta, I myself always used to have this very sour and critical attitude towards other people. As soon as I would meet other people, I would start immediately looking for their faults and weak spots, and then start criticizing them, either directly to their face or behind their backs to others. And as a result, I didn't have many friends. But then I started, when I encountered Buddhism and I had my teachers started to point out that fault in myself and recommended metta as a way to overcome it. And I started to develop loving kindness, and I found my whole attitude towards other people changed. And as a result, now I'm very fortunate to have many friends. Okay, so loving kindness, when you develop it, you'll find that it transforms the way you relate to other people, and thereby it changes the opinion that other people will have of you and the way they relate to you. So you gain more friends. Also, loving kindness motivates us to perform wholesome deeds. In terms of Buddhist practice, it underlies qualities like generosity or giving. It underlies the practice of the precepts or moral practice. It underlies patience. It underlies, in fact, all of the other brahmaviharas are rooted in metta or loving kindness. As I mentioned earlier, loving kindness can be cultivated as a practice of meditation that leads to samadhi, deep concentration, which can serve as the platform or foundation for developing panya, insight, wisdom, culminating in vimukti, liberation. And then for those who follow the bodhisattva path, metta is together with karuna, compassion, is one of the two roots of bodhicitta, the aspiration to attain Buddhahood in order to bring the Dharma to the world. So it's this boundless loving kindness that motivates the bodhisattva to practice the paramitas for countless lives aimed at the attainment of Buddhahood. Okay, now I'm going to deal with how we develop loving kindness systematically. How do we develop loving kindness as a meditation? And the way this come down in the tradition, the way it's sort of taught within the tradition, the practice of loving kindness involves two components. One is a formula, and the other is the recipients of loving kindness. We might call the target groups. Okay, for the formula, there are different formulas that can be used. The formula that I've developed over the years involves 4 phrases. May so-and-so be well. And by well, we mean healthy in body and mind. May so-and-so, that's the person, be happy. This may they experience and enjoy real deep happiness. Then recently, or a few years ago, I added, may so-and-so be safe, because we see so many dangers in life today. Illness and injury and different types of violence. So we want people to be safe, to be secure from harm and injury. So that's the third phrase. And then may all of that person's good aims be fulfilled. We want them to have a rich and fulfilling life, a life of meaning and purpose, of fulfillment. So those are the 4 formulas, 4 phrases in the formula then the persons are arranged in groups, in expanding circles away from oneself. So one begins with oneself, because to develop loving kindness, one first needs a kind attitude towards oneself. And many people have trouble with this. But to develop loving kindness to yourself, it doesn't mean that you have to love yourself in the sense of loving all your imperfections. But what it means is that you recognize that the deepest drive of your own being is the wish to be well and happy and safe and to have a fulfilling life. I think nobody can deny that that is the basic drive at the very foundation of their being. So one starts with oneself. Then in the practice today, we're going to choose one person from each of these groups. Next, you choose what I call the benefactor. This can be a person who has helped you in some way, or that serves as a model for you, that gives you guidance, a kind of friend, an elder friend, or a wise friend, not an extremely close one. That comes next. A little distance, or somebody you look up to with respect. So we call this the benefactor. And that will be the second person. And one qualification now for all of these people, they have to be somebody who is presently alive. You could have good wishes for deceased persons, but we don't develop metta towards them because you want to wish for the well-being and happiness of somebody who is presently alive. Okay, so you start with yourself, then comes the benefactor. We call this the teacher or helper. Then third is the dear friend, a very close friend. And I want to suggest that a husband doesn't choose the wife, or a wife the husband, or a parent doesn't choose their child, because I think there's too much of the sense of mine creeps in there, a little possessive sense. But choose a good friend, a very close friend. So that is the third person. The fourth person is going to be, we call this the neutral person, or the mere acquaintance. Like it could be somebody, if you go to the supermarket, the clerk that you regularly see at the checkout counter, or at the gas station, the attendant at the gas station who looks after your car, or if you see the regular mail delivery person, the mailman or mailwoman, or even just a neighbor that you have a nodding acquaintance with. You say, how are you today? Fine. How are you? Fine. Bye-bye. So that kind of person. Then the last one is a bit difficult. I'm a little reluctant to bring this in, but I'll bring it in. This is the troublemaker, the person that makes difficulties for you. Sometimes somebody who's a little spiteful towards you, a little troublesome. Don't take in at this point a real fierce enemy, but just somebody who causes a little friction, a little displeasure from time to time. So that is the person we'll bring in. And if you don't have anybody that you know personally that fits into that category, I say that you can bring in a public figure to fill that role. I mean, that's what I do myself. I don't want to mention a full name, but I'll just drop the initials. MM. You could fill it in yourself. Okay, so those are the two elements in the development of loving kindness. And we're going to work this morning on what I call the personally directed development of loving kindness. In the afternoon, Aya Dhammadeepa, she will bring in the radiation of loving kindness. So this much deals with my explanation or presentation. What we're going to do now, I think we'll change the schedule a little bit in terms of its exact details. Now I have 10:35. What we're going to do now, we'll just do 3 minutes of stretching, a little bending and stretching, and then we'll go into the session of the sitting meditation. So 10:35, be back. That's what I have here. What is it in, you should have 7:35, I think, on the West Coast.
Yes, it's 7:35 now.
Okay, so 7:38, 10:38, be back in your seats, and then we'll start the session.
Thank you.
Likubodi? Oh.
Okay, now we're going to resume. And if you had paused the recording during this little break, then resume the recording. If it's continuous, then don't worry about it. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to mention each of the persons that we choose representing each of the groups, and I'll recite the formula for each group, and then pause for about 5 minutes after mentioning the person. And in the silence of that 5 minutes, you use the formula, the words of the formula, to try to develop the feeling that corresponds to the words. And this takes patience, work, and effort, but keep on turning the phrases over and over in whatever way works best for you. Sometimes one phrase will work better than the others, then you could give more emphasis to that phrase. But experiment and see what works. Okay, so take your meditation seat, body firm and straight, eyes closed. First, settle into the felt sense of the body. Then let the mind settle in the region of the heart, because the loving kindness is developed from the heart base. Okay, now you can bring to mind an image of yourself as though you were standing maybe about 5 yards away. See yourself smiling and happy. And then from the heart, generate the wish, may I be well. May I be truly happy. May I be safe from all harm and danger. May all my good aims in life be fulfilled. Okay, go on now in silence for about 5 minutes. Try to bring to the surface the realization that that wish to be well and happy and safe, that is the most fundamental wish at the base of your being. Okay, now move on to the next person. This will be the person we can call this the wise friend or the wise advisor, or a senior friend, a teacher, or guide. Again, it has to be a person who's presently alive. See that person in your mind's eye as though about 5 yards away, smiling and happy. And generate the wish, may my wise guide, may that person be truly well, healthy of body and mind. May they be truly and deeply happy. May they be safe, safe from all harm and danger. And may all their good aims in life be fulfilled. Okay, now we move to the next person. This should be a close and dear friend. See the person again as though standing a few yards away, smiling and happy. And then generate the wish, may my dear friend be well. May that person be happy, truly and deeply happy. May that dear friend be safe. And may all that good person's good aims in life be fulfilled. Okay, now we move on to the next person. This is the one that we call the neutral person or the simple acquaintance. I mentioned some examples. It could be your neighbor, person who works at one of the stores where you regularly go shopping, somebody that you see just as a face, a kind of nodding acquaintance. And here you sometimes have to do a little work, mental work, to recognize that this is a person, a human being, just like yourself, just like myself, a person who also, the fundamental drive of that person also is to be well, that is to preserve their health. Though they seem to be engaged in very bland activities, but they really want to be happy. They don't want any harm or damage to themselves, so they want to be safe. And they want to live a rich and fulfilling life. And so reflecting in that way, develop towards that person the wish, may this good person be well, truly well and healthy. May they be truly and deeply happy. May they be safe from all harm. And may all their good aims in life be fulfilled. Continue now on your own for about 5 minutes. Yeah, the key is shifting your sense of identity so that you could identify with the other person, even though they are a relative stranger. Okay. Okay, now we're going to bring in the one that we call the hostile person, but don't bring in an extremely bitter enemy, but a person that you feel some, that you have some friction with, or that you have some just a natural dislike for, even if they don't do anything very bad to you. And again, to develop the loving kindness to this person, you sometimes have to do a little reflection to consider that if this person has a nasty temperament, sometimes a cruel or spiteful temperament, recognize that this person might have their own inner problems that they can't fully resolve. Or you can reflect that this person, maybe they'll have parents that love them despite all their faults, or they'll have a wife that loves them, or a husband that loves her, or they have children that love them. And recognize, even though they might do nasty and harmful things, but their basic wish is to be well and happy. They're just going about it in the wrong way. Okay, so choose that person, see them in your mind's eye, and again, develop those thoughts, those wishes. May this person be well. May they be happy. May they be safe. And may all their good aims in life be fulfilled. And if when you're trying to develop the loving kindness to that person, you find you're overrun by too many angry or thoughts of ill will, then just leave that person aside and go back to the neutral person for the rest of this session. Okay, continue now in silence. Okay, now you drop all the thought formations that you've been using for the development of loving kindness. Let them go and come back to the felt sense of your body in the sitting position. Just feel the body sitting. Then take a few deep mindful breaths in and out. In and out. And then you can mindfully open your eyes. And we end the session, we rub the palms together. Rub the palms over the face. Top of the head. Back of the head, back of the neck. Then down the lower back to the buttocks. And you might massage that area a bit to stimulate the circulation. Then you can come down to the knees and again, rub the knees. And then come down, if you've been sitting cross-legged on a mat, you can come down to the feet and the toes and massage that area. Okay, we have a few minutes for questions, and these should just be simple, practical questions about the method that I explained. We have longer question sessions in the afternoon. I see there'll be a 15-minute question session, and then in the evening, a 20-minute question session. Just any sort of little question that you need to get the method correct. No theoretical questions. Okay, am I to choose the people? Okay, so I say Ashish.
Yes, Bhante, they're to raise their hand and then you recognize them.
Okay, I saw Ashish.
And if Bhante calls your name, please unmute yourself so you can ask your question.
Yeah, you have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi, Venerable. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can
Yes,
hear
we
you.
can.
Yeah, my question is, do we practice this before or after the meditation session? Let's say we practice concentration meditation. Do we practice this before or after?
Okay, that's a good question. There are different ways that you can use the loving kindness meditation. You can use it as a supplement to, if you suppose you have mindfulness of breathing, anapanasati, as your primary meditation subject. In that case, you could use the metta maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes at the beginning of the session, or you can use it 5 minutes, 10 minutes at the end of the session. So that's one approach. Another approach is to use it for a period of time as your primary meditation subject. Or if you have, like, say, 2 meditation sessions a day, let's say morning and evening, you might devote one of them exclusively to the loving kindness meditation. Or you might even devote both sessions to the loving kindness meditation, say for a week or 10 days or two weeks, then you go back to your mindfulness of breathing. So there's no fixed rule. You just choose whatever approach you find most beneficial. Okay, Belinda.
Yes, thank you, Bhante, for your teaching. My question is, let's say one of the persons you're directing that practice to is called, let's say, John, just hypothetically. When we say it, do we say, may John be well, may John be happy, or do we say, may you, like with his image in front of you, and say, may you be happy, may you? Is there a difference, or what's the?
I'm trying to think what I do myself. I say may he, or in my thinking, I say may he or she. But if you find it more helpful to say you, do that. You know, there's no fixed rule about this.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, Young.
Bante, thank you for taking the question. I have a question about the picking of recipient in a dear category, in dear friend category.
Yeah.
If the person is suffering too big at the moment and causing me a lot of emotion, then I shouldn't pick that person.
Yeah, I would say then don't choose that person for now.
Okay,
You choose somebody who's in a more neutral state.
okay, thank you.
Phyllis.
Hi, Bante. Thank you
Okay.
for your teaching. I have a question about the actual wishes that we recite, especially for the people that we are not good friend with or we have disagreement with. I found it very difficult to do the wishing them their goal to be fulfilled part. Is very hard. Is it okay for me to just concentrate on the one that I can actually do, like especially the one that wishing them no harm?
Yeah. As I said earlier, the formulas are not sort of written in stone in any book. And also, but remember for the fourth phrase, the way I always put it is, may all of their good aims in life be fulfilled. You don't want their bad aims to be fulfilled, only the good aims. But if you still have trouble with that, you could put it aside. What I say is to experiment with the phrases. Whatever phrase helps to arouse most effectively that feeling of the loving concern for the person. That's what you do, what you use. But I always like to say, use a few phrases. Don't, in the initial stage, don't just use one, because this gives a more balanced approach.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I will take, I think, one more question. Then the other question, people with questions, don't give up, because there'll be question sessions in the afternoon and the evening. So you could just keep your questions for that period. So this is Kathy.
Yes, thank you, Bhante. I was taking notes, and when you talked about the stages, were there 3 or 4 stages of working with Metta? And I got generation, strengthening, expansion. And was that it, or was there a 4th?
Yeah, but those are the basic stages.
Okay.
But I
all
use
right.
sometimes different words, so maybe that led you to think that there were 4. So I say that you're generating or arousing or giving rise to the to the loving kindness. Then you're strengthening and developing it. And excuse me, I've just lost my voice. Send me good wishes to get my voice back. And then you're radiating it or expanding it until it becomes universal.
Thank you.
Okay, so that will be it for the questions this morning. And now I think, is Carla, will you be
Yvonne
introducing
will
the
be
video?
showing
Okay.
us a video about BGR and its work. And it's a new video, so you might not have seen it before if you're not involved in making it. And we appreciate our volunteers who made it. And another volunteer, Yvonne, are you ready?
Yes.
Yeah, I should just
right.
mention that this is a benefit retreat for Buddhist Global Relief. And so we want to introduce you to our work, which I say is the effort to put metta and karuna, loving kindness and compassion, into action. So these videos will show us the way we've been doing this over the years. Okay, Yvonne, please.
Sound, Yvonne?
We empower people to rise above the conditions which drive them down. We give direct food aid to those whose immediate survival may be threatened by hunger and malnutrition. We facilitate sustainable farming programs for small farmers to provide for themselves. Supporting girls and women is a proven element in any successful fight to reverse poverty, hunger, and malnutrition. And so we promote the education and vocational training of girls and women around the globe, giving them new opportunities to provide for themselves and their families. Enriching the lives of women can start whole communities on the path out of poverty. Nearly 91% of BGR's expenditures go directly to supporting our approximately 40 projects around the world and here in the US. We work with partners large and small, such as Action Against Hunger, Lotus Outreach International, and the Bodhicitta Foundation. In Port-au-Prince, Haiti, Buddhist Global Relief provides 800 hot meals a day for children, many of whom walk several miles to receive their only meal for the day. In Bangladesh, BGR provides meals for 128 girls in elementary and middle schools. These meals not only improve the health and nutrition of the girls, but also greatly improve their ability to study and learn. Because of these nutritional benefits, the dropout rate in these schools is declining. Students tend to stay in school because they are well fed and, in fact, stay in school longer. As a result of this, the number of children who continue on to secondary school is also increasing. With this increased education comes even more opportunity for these children. In Cambodia, one project provides much-needed rice. This allows the girls to stay in school rather than be forced to drop out to accept unsuitable work due to the pressure to support their families. This project even helps some of the young women to attend university. In fact, some of these young women have moved back to their home villages after graduation to work as school teachers and continue the beneficial cycle of growth and support. Another project provides scholarships for refugee children in Thailand, whose parents work as backpack medics in the conflict zones of Myanmar. In many countries, our projects help improve food security by teaching sustainable methods of small-scale farming. Sustainable small-scale farming improves accessibility to food, quality of diets, crop yields, and household incomes. It also decreases dependence on external aid over time. In one farming-based support program, our partner in Kenya works with farmers to replant indigenous crops and trees. This project provides improved nutrition and incomes for participating families. In India, another farming project helps women develop resilient farming practices to enable them to adapt to a changing climate. Here in the US, our partner in Detroit teaches communities how to grow their own food and supports them as they develop urban gardens. As a result of these farming projects, thousands of rural and urban folks now have access to fresh fruits and vegetables, which provide nutrients needed to combat the incidence of chronic problems like heart disease and diabetes, which plague many vulnerable communities. Aside from giving direct food support and facilitating farming programs, BGR provides vocational training to women and girls. Vocational training is an effective way to improve the well-being of families around the globe. BGR supports a center in Cameroon, which provides vocational training to single mothers as well as to the many women widowed as a result of frequent regional conflicts. In Sri Lanka, we support young women as they receive technical school and university-level training, which gives them the opportunity to build better lives. In Punjab, India, we help provide training and marketing skills to women, many of whom were widowed, leaving them with no source of income. And in Nagpur, India, we support a girls' home which implements many of our methods in one place. We provide housing, scholarships, nutrition, job training, and other necessary assistance to 30 young women. For close to 1 billion people around the world, hunger is a terrible and ever-present reality. It hounds their every step. According to the World Food Program, each year 6 million people, many of them children, die of hunger and hunger-related diseases. Building pathways out of this devastating circumstance is possible. Your donation to Buddhist Global Relief will give people affected by hunger the support they need to pull themselves out of this condition and lead lives of dignity, purpose, and strength. You can use the link below to give and give generously. We are Buddhist Global Relief, and we thank you deeply for your support. We are Buddhist Global Relief.
Thank you very much. for this video. This is the end of our morning session. The link is in the chat box if you're interested. The link to our website where you can see our projects and find a way to donate is in the chat box. We hope to see you back this afternoon, 3 p.m. on the East Coast and noon here in Seattle and the rest of the West Coast. So that's the end of our morning session. Until later.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay, thank you.
Bante.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bante.
Thank you, Bante.
Thank you, Bante.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bante.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bante. Be safe.
Okay, thank you.